Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach Enough channel. In this video, we're going to do the round 4 preview for NRL Fantasy in the 2026 season. Before we get to my team though, shout out to the guys at Footy Statistics, or NRL Fantasy Stats, as you can see on the website here, because they have managed to get back the trade-ins and trade-outs, or the more aptly named who's hot and who's not. So if we scroll down from the homepage, it may have been here the whole time and I just never realised, but I finally found it. So we'll go through the who's hot and who's not, so the top 15 trade-ins and trade-outs. Doesn't really provide us with captaincy data, but that's fine. So number one on the who's hot list is Joe Chan. Pretty hot given he's got a -7 break even. Scoring really well. Job security's there now, particularly with the Lasardi injury. They're really struggling for edge forwards there at the Storm. And with a couple of the options out this week, I think here's an easy one to plug and play in the team. Jackson Ford at number 2. So obviously been getting big minutes. I've always just got a little bit of a question mark over whether Mitch Barnett starts to eat into that time as he comes back from injury. They might take it a bit slow, and Jackson Ford might continue to get big minutes for a while. But he's also quite expensive already. I think he's at 700 something K. I can have a quick look. Yeah, so 693, close enough. So if you've got the cash in the bank, you could do it, but I'm not quite doing that well at the moment. Tanner Boyd, so again, it's been going great, but now Luke Metcalf's back from injury. How much does he take away from Tanner Boyd? I think based on form, they'll let Boyd still do the main thing there. But I guess, does Metcalf demand the ball a certain amount? Does Metcalf kick goals? Remains to be seen. So, yeah, for his price point, and I don't think it's a long-term pick. I think across the season, Metcalf will sort of, take certain responsibility on. I'm happy to keep the sort of halves I've got at the moment and, build up the cash to bring in a couple of the different guns later in the season. Jesse Colquhoun at number 4. So given, I guess, a few of the big middles are out this week, and if you're scraping pennies a bit, I think he is a viable trading option this week. Definitely one that I've considered, but I'm probably going to go a slightly different way this week. At number 5, Stefano Utoikamanu. So I guess another one who could be a great shout. 633k, so a bit of a discount on a Jackson Ford. So I guess, for example, if you're looking to trade from a Couchman, it's pretty easy. Toby Couchman, that is, pretty easy sort of trade. What was Jermaine Hopgood? I think he might have been a similar price point, 560. So yeah, not the biggest jump to get the Stefano. Hamish Stewart at number 6. So I think he could benefit from the fact that Ryan Couchman's out for a few weeks, and also Toby Couchman this week. He can play big minutes. So yeah, I've already got him in the team, but I could definitely see people trading him in. Arama Howe, so maybe people looking for a bit of a cheaper option to bring in. Maybe downgrading a Ryan Couchman or Lasardi if you had him. So yeah, I can see that move working. I've got Arama Howe, so I wouldn't begrudge anyone else bringing him in. Noel Martin, it's been going really great. Job security's there. Yep. You've obviously missed out on a bit of cash gen, but I think he's still got a bit of cash to make. Good scores coming, so just get him in. Alex Twal is one I've probably never really considered, but again, very sort of base stat-ish. At 600k, I'd find the extra little bit to go to Stefano if you could. or just go down to a Stewart or Colhoun. Nia Corey, um, I think he's on the bench, so I don't understand the appeal in this one. What's he priced at 380? Maybe that's the appeal. Cheap, dual position. Um, Played 61 minutes off the bench last week, so yeah, I didn't see the game, so I don't really know the role. So I'll reserve judgment there. Isaiah Yo, keeper option, bring him in if you've got the cash. Fletcher Hunt, so probably the backline cheapie of the week. It's in dual position. I think he's just wing fullback in fantasy. So yeah, you could bring him in. I've toyed with bringing him in to both my super coach and fantasy teams, but just haven't quite got the room there. I've sort of got a few other cheapies there currently. Tom Jenkins, I think this is chasing a bit of last week's points. I wouldn't be doing it. Nathan Cleary, probably number one fantasy player in the game, particularly now Payne Haas is out. So, yeah, bring him in. And Matt Cassini, um, yeah, I think he's going all right. You can bring him in as a cheap option as well. On the Who's Not list, Lasardi out for a few weeks. So, and Ryan Couchman, I could probably talk about these guys in the same light. Um, so I'd be trading both of them out if I had them. Um, and then with the view to bring them back in once they return. Because by then, some of our other cheapies, like our Rama Howes, Hamish Stewarts of the world, maybe even a Joe Chan if you're not rating him as a keeper, they should have peaked in price. We can bring these guys in and they have built in cash gen. So we can continue generating cash in fantasy. It changes every week. So you've sort of got to, you know, pick up the opportunities when you can. I don't know if you can park these sort of guys on the bench for 4 weeks to start the season. Payne Haas at number three is an interesting one. Um, if we get a bit more clarity around the extent of his shoulder injury, um, he might be a trade. I'm just going to hold because I think it's two trades. You've got to get him out. You've got to bring him in as soon as he's back. Um, so yeah, I'm going to try and avoid that. Trey Mooney at number four. So it's only a 1 week suspension, and I think he's doing a decent enough job in the middle. So I would hold. But if it's absolute panic stations and he's the one that has to go, I understand. Jermaine Hopgood, yep, easy one, easiest one on this list. Season long injury, train him out unfortunately. Dave Fafita is an interesting one. So I guess he hasn't set the world on fire yet, but he is also 3 weeks into that combination on the left edge, and we know the players around him how deadly they are, and the opportunities they can create for him. And in saying that, he's probably even created a couple of little opportunities for himself. So I would hold. Um, it's only 1 week. Every player goes through a bye at some stage, so you should have a plan in place to work around them. Dylan Brown, so out for a few more weeks. I think, yep, you can chop him. Adam Dewey's an interesting one. So obviously, early doors news was he's got a hamstring injury. Then he's been named on Tuesday night. Is it a bit of a ducks and drakes sort of thing? They've got Latu Finu floating around on the bench. Um, yeah, I'd wait till game time if you can. He does play fairly early in the round in the second game against the Warriors. Um, and I guess the fact they've got a flight in New Zealand, there might be an indication that he may or may not get on the plane. I don't know anything, just throwing it out there. Toby Couchman, so just out with the HIA, but in saying that, his role probably hasn't quite been what we thought it would be. Um, and, I think it's just maybe a good excuse if you wanted to move him on, particularly if you do need a middle in particular this week. I think he is a viable trade out option. Tom Chester at number 10. So another one that's only got a 1 week suspension. And, maybe aside from last week, wasn't really doing that bad. I think he's a hold if you can get away with it. Obviously, there's a lot of carnage at the moment, but yeah, I wouldn't be trading Tommy Chester. Jerome Luai, it's probably one I would trade given he's out for a few weeks, and even then, he's never been the most fantasy relevant option. Reed Marnie, so obviously not making cash there at hooker, but it's probably one of those positions where no one's really jumping out of the ground. Maybe a Harry Grant, Blake Brayley, if you've got the cash to go up and you've got no other issues with your team, you could do worse. But yeah, I'm not trading Reed Marnie this week just because I've got high priorities. Cody Walker, so again on the buy. So if you picked him in the team, you should hold. But realistically, fantasy has probably never been the best scorer because he does rely on attacking upside, which is definitely more of a super coach um, scoring benefit. Um, so yeah, I'd be okay with trading out Cody Walker this week. Kalen Ponga still out for a few weeks, so I think yep, you trade him. And Jacob Kiraz is an interesting one, given that he did look a bit injured in the game last Thursday night. Named to play this week, haven't really had any indications that he's not ready to go. Um, Hopefully, it's the thing he can play through, whatever it is. He's done it before, scored well, playing through injury, so I'm not trading. But again, if you've got nothing else wrong with your team, maybe it's worth a luxury trade at this point. So yeah, so those are the popular trade ins and trade outs. Um, and so my team, I've already got the trades locked in. It seems to be a little bit easier with fantasy. But the two trades were Ryan Couchman out. As I said, I'm happy to get him back in a few weeks. But we're going to keep generating cash. So I'm bringing in Joe Chan. Obviously, already missed out on 190k, but I think he's got at least another 100 in him, potentially more, which would push him into the keeper type territory. Um, but yeah, I've got lots of edges at the moment. And so then the second trade, I'm not exactly locked in on, um, and particularly because I don't know if I really need the additional edge cover. But I'm going to trade out Toby Couchman. I just don't particularly rate his um, role at the moment, and I'm thinking of bringing in Jack Williams. So obviously the Jermaine Hopgood injury opens up a few minutes in that forward pack. And I think Jack Williams is one that can take on some of that extra responsibility. The dual position is nice as well, so it was sort of a like for like replacement. But as I said, I don't particularly need the edges. If you look at the team currently, if I go to my team, um, yeah, you'll see that we've got Chan, Martin, Lukey, Howe, and Fafita. We've got 5 edges. Do I really need a sixth? Um, so yeah, I'm not super convinced on this. I am potentially, if we reverse the trade, we can look at some options. So we'll trade out Couchy. We've got 779 to spend. So if we go all positions, middle. So obviously we can't afford a Terrell May. We could go with the pack and go with Jackson Ford. I think we can pretty much get anyone other than Terrell May. Oh, sorry, Price. I always get that confused. So Cam Murray's on the buy, which is fine. We can afford him, but can't play him. So Ford, Aaron Clark, averaging 50 to start the season. So again, I'm not sure about the minutes rotation there at the Warriors. So yeah, Pat Carrigan, obviously with Haas out, he could be big, but averaging 51. So Williams is averaging 53. So I don't think it's the worst shout with maybe potential for a little bit of upside. Um, Stefano's the real interesting one. So averaging 57. Um, and Melbourne do have a good run coming up. So what's his break even? 31. So it could be a little bit of juice there as well. So he's actually 20k cheaper than Williams. So maybe we look at Stefano. Um, yeah, we could go for Noah Blake or Tarpany are on the slide, but averages aren't quite there. Fisher Harris, sneaky average of 57. Trent the Arrow, first game back, 56. Twally averaging 58. That's decent. So maybe I underestimated him before when I thought about the Who's Hot list. Yeah, so after that, yeah, these guys really aren't averaging what we would want. The other option, potentially, if I can find him, is Colquhoun. He's averaging 45. Still got a fair bit of cash to make. And realistically, we're going to plug Haas and Mooney back in hopefully next week. So do we really need um, a gun middle? Thinking Colquhoun, now that I've seen his average, that's actually pretty decent for the price. So it does leave us a bit of cash in the bank as well, but we can try and do something with that next week potentially. Yeah, so I'm going to run with that. I think there'll be teams even with two trades struggling to get 17 this week with some of the carnage. So the fact I've got 17 playing, I think we can take a punt on a Colquhoun. Obviously, we're playing like a Fayamani's not ideal, but the Dragons aren't the strongest defense going around. Um, I guess the Cowboys and Storm play each other. So maybe we could put Martin on the bench just because he plays a bit later in the round. Uh, but truth be told, actually, we can't make any sort of funky moves anyway because we've only got 17 available. So might just leave the team as is. Captain Cleary, I think, is pretty obvious this week against Para. Just VC'd Yo in the same game. Um, I think for fairly obvious reasons. He's probably the other premium option we've got there at the moment. Um, and yeah, so Trome 897. What's his break even? 80. Ooh. So he could dip a bit more in price this week. 500. So yeah, we could potentially get Terrell May in as early as next week if the price is right on an option. Maybe Heel and Lukey could get there. That'll be all right. -1. He's probably still got a couple weeks of cash then. That's going to be the problem. It's just timing the upgrades, I think, from here. But we'll save all that and we'll worry about that next week. So, yeah, as always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the NRL Fantasy content. Subscribe for all of the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.